Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. I know it's been a while. I kind of stopped doing videos. I just needed a little bit of a break from the internet, as you could imagine. But I kind of feel like my old self again, and I really do miss doing this. And I'm going to be doing more stuff again. But what I wanted to start with was, I'm friends with a lot of you guys who are doing stereo rigs and have their own way of doing it. Some people have true stereo rigs where they have two amps playing at the same time. Some people are using the effects loop of one amp to be a power amp and doing all these other stuff. And it's, everyone has their own way of doing it. I always found my way of doing it to be really simple. Now people will say, well, you have to spend all this money to get all this gear. That's fine. But the point is, it's still an elegant solution. And I wanted to kind of explain kind of what I'm doing, because anyone can recreate it. So basically what I kind of figured out as I've been kind of like mashing all this gear together over the years was, what's important to me is I always want to be able to control volume, because some of my amps are really loud, right? Like the SLO or the SL68 or, these amps really are loud, right? So how do you use them in a usable setting? And then how do you use them in a stereo setting, right? So what I've done is very simple, actually. I take any amp. Right now I have this Atomica, custom Atomica, and I run it through the Fried power station. Now, what you'll notice is that the Fried power station is powered off. That's because the power station, just as a reactive load, does not require power, just like the sur-reactive load. So that would freak people out, right? If you plug your amp into it, you'd be nervous that if it wasn't powered on. The only reason you need to power it on is if you're using the power amp. In this setting, I'm actually not using the power amp, because what I'm doing is I'm sending the amp into the Fried power station, and then I'm using the line out and sending it into the Fried stereo power amp. And it works so well because basically the Fried power amp has a volume for both channels, and I can control the entire stereo rig from one knob. Now, the only additional kind of complexity that I'm doing here, which is kind of clever also in a way, is that I have the line out of the Fried power station going into my stereo power pedal board. So I have basically a mono in. This is a mono in. And then I have a stereo out. So I send the stereo out into the stereo power amp, and I get stereo effects. So I get to achieve everything I want. I get to control the volume of a stereo rig, get my stereo effects, and, it seems maybe a little more complicated, but it's pretty straightforward. So what I wanted to show you is I actually have a little ditto looper, and I recorded a riff, and I just want to show you how cool it is that you can control the volume. All I have is just a stereo digital delay using the DD500. So I'm just going to play. You're going to hear a little bit of it because even at volume of 0, you hear something. Right, so I'm talking over this. It's fine, right? It's really quiet. And then I could just raise it up. And then, obviously, let's add some micro pitch. So that's how I'm doing it. And it's awesome because I can take any amp, no matter how loud, master volume, non-master volume, and I could add effects to it, and I could play it at any volume. So, I really enjoy it. I'm really happy with the setup. And if you already have two cabinets and you already have an amp, you're really looking at, a couple $100 for a reactive load. It doesn't need to be the power station. The stereo power amp is where I spent money. I think this thing was like $1,200-$1,300, but it's so good and it's just so elegant, and it's also a single rack unit. So I really love it. And, you can tweak the cost of any particular item, but the idea is if you take an amp, put it through an analog reactive load or some kind of reactive load, and you put it through a stereo power amp, you're pretty much good to go. And then you can enjoy your amps and not have to worry about, does it have a good master volume taper? Does it have it right? I think a lot of people bought certain amps just because they had a good master volume. But once you don't have to worry about that, you can get an SLO 100. Enjoy yourself. Crank it up. Enjoy. That's what it's for. That's what it's meant to be. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope everyone's doing really well, and hope to be posting more in the future. See ya.